What is up, everybody? I am Get Flanked, and today we're going to be trying something a little bit different on the channel. This is something that I could see potentially becoming a series, but I wanted to try it out first, see what you guys thought. And the idea is that we're going to go over the patch history of an operator in the game. Today we're going to be going over Ashe, the Queen of Siege. And Ashe has changed a lot over time. I mean, at this point, she is 5 years old, over 5 years old. She was launched with the game, and she's received a lot of balance changes and tweaks over time. We're going to be going through all of those today. And I'll try to kind of tell stories that I remember from the time whenever I read the different changes. We're going to be using Liquipedia to do this. Liquipedia organizes all these patch notes and balance changes to operators in a way that's very easy to find and to go through quickly, and that's what we're going to be using to go through this. So with that said, let's get started. Don't forget to give me feedback as we go along here on whether you enjoy this, how this could be changed, and yeah, with that said, let's just get started. Okay, so Ashe, the Queen of Siege, again, she was introduced with the game in patch 1.0, and this is every balance change that's ever really come Ashe's direction. Some are significant, some were general changes. We're going to go through all of those now, okay? So the first change that ever came her way was patch 4.2. Now, because it doesn't have a digit in the beginning, that means that it was year one, okay? So patch 4.2, some changes to G36. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. And right here's the patch change. This was Skull Rain mid-season reinforcements. So this was back in September 13th of 2016, all right? And we'll get down to Ashe here. Ashe's G36C. The big question for Ashe, G36C or R4C. For most players, the choice seemed pretty obvious. The R4C deals more damage, and the difference in recoil isn't substantial enough to pick the G36C. We have modified the G36C recoil, so it's much more appealing compared to the R4C. It still does less damage, but it should now give you more interesting choice between the two. The recoil changes are done in 3 different ways. The gun will raise at a slower rate. We are lowering the maximum recoil limit, and the first shot multiplier has been lowered. So basically, they tried to make the G36C more appealing. They reduced the recoil in 3 different ways, and in an effort to try to make the choice between the R4C and the G36C more of an actual choice. Now, this was back in year one. I think we can all say that this didn't work, or at least didn't have the effect of making the G36 pick more. Even to this day, the R4C is still the preferred weapon by most players. I remember playing a good bit of G36C on console. I think that was more out of ignorance than any type of real preference necessarily. It was just kind of what I did. But no doubt about it, the R4C, I think still to this day, I still think the R4C is one of the top 3 or 4 weapons in the game. It's just so easy to use. All right, so that was the first change that ever came Ashe's way. Let's move on to the next one. This was patch 5.2. And this was a bunch of weapon changes in this patch. So we're not going to go through all the details, but this would have been Red Crow mid-season reinforcements back in December 15th of 2016. And basically, what it came down to here is that this was a huge weapon balancing patch to try to make the ARs and SMGs more in sync with each other, I guess you could say. And they changed some weapons, especially SMGs, substantially. And those were listed right here. There were some minor changes to almost every weapon in the game, okay? And the Ashe kind of fell into that minor change. These weren't like significant changes. And it had to do with basically increasing her recoil on both the G36C and R4C, okay? Moving on to patch 2.2.1. This is when they replaced Ashe's smoke grenades with stun grenades, and this would have been Operation Health. Okay, so Operation Health, June 20th of 2017, and yeah, Ashe originally launched with smoke grenades. I believe smoke grenades and breaching charges. They actually replaced the smokes with the stuns in patch 2.2.1. Moving on to patch 2.3. This was again kind of a big weapon balancing patch where fall-off damage of weapons has been unified. Assault rifle fall-off damage was changed. Pistol fall-off damage was changed. And then she got 2 extra mags with her M45 pistol. All right, moving on to patch 2.4. And this is, again, a big pistol change. Across the board, pistols were changed here. And I remember this change to make pistols easier to use. So not specific to Ashe. Patch 2.4. This was specific to Ashe, and this is when they finally nerfed the R4C specifically, all right? So let's look at this. This was white noise mid-season reinforcements, January 23rd of 2018. Ashe's R4C nerf. We reduced the damage of the R4C to 39 from 41. Game designers notes, Ashe is still a pick that's too attractive when compared to other attackers. We've compared her most popular weapon, R4C, to other assault rifle stats, and given the R4C's very high rate of fire, 860, it's too high. We are aware of visual issue with suppressive damage. Okay, so basically they reduced the R4C damage from 41 down to 39. And you can see that Ashe's R4C has been kind of a problem up to this point, right? And as good as the R4C is right now, it was even better at one point. It did more damage. So that's kind of crazy when you think about it. All right. Next patch. That would be patch 3.2. And this was across the board. 3-speed operators now move slightly lower. Operators now move faster with pistol out. So as fast as Ashe is right now, she used to be faster. They nerfed 3 speeds overall, not just Ashe, but all 3 speeds. All right, patch 3.3. This was the weapon sight misalignment fix. Again, not specific to Ashe. This was across the board. And the way that they did this, they had to fix recoil. And every weapon in the game's recoil changed. And some recoil was made worse, some was made better. All right, moving on here to patch 3.4. This was a general change. The throw curve of stun grenades has been changed to be easier and more comfortable to use. As a result, they can be thrown further. All right, moving on to patch 4.1. And this was when they removed the ACOG sight from the R4C. All right, so let's look at this. This was Operation Burnt Horizon. So year 4, season 1. This would have been March 6th of 2019. And let's find it here. Ashe removed ACOG from R4C. So no real explanation here. But I remember when this was going on, one thing I specifically remember was Bikini Body, really advocating for Ashe's removal of the ACOG. There was, Sky. I remember him saying for a long time, he's a pro player. He wanted ACOG removed from a lot of attackers, but Ashe specifically. And I think the idea was Ashe was just so good. Like 3-speed, great gadget, and the R4C at this point with the ACOG was probably a top 1 or 2 weapons in the game on viable operators. Like the AK-12 has always been really good, but at this point it was only available on Fuse, and Fuse wasn't really that viable in most situations, okay? I would say at this point, Twitch's F2 was definitely up there competing with the R4C, but I think this was one of those things where, the wind deltas were coming out and you were seeing Ashe at the top every time, and you felt like Ashe was good at everything. And she could take any engagement. Because of her ACOG, she could hold flank. It was just too good. Big change here. All right. So moving on. And this is the most recent one here. This was patch 5.4. So year 5, season 4, the season we're currently in. The number of breaching rounds has increased to 3, up from 2. So her unique gadget, she gets 3 now instead of 2. Breaching round damage is reduced to 50 HP, down from the previous 90, and stun grenades are replaced with Claymore. So overall, I mean, this is a utility buff in the sense that Ashe got 3 breaching rounds, which means she can clear more utility, but kind of a nerf in that they removed her stun grenades. So Ashe's stuns were important for clearing ADSs and wall-mine magnets. They removed those because they nerfed the ADS, they nerfed the magnets, but they still kind of buffed her in that her breaching charges, she can clear more utility. And I'm seeing this in game. Like, I feel like the buff to her breaching charges, I'm feeling that more in game than I am the removal of her stuns. Let me know what you guys think about that. But it's crazy to me, like, to think about Ashe's history from being like the all aim, no brain entry, like crazy aggressive, to now with these 3 breaching charges, she's like kind of like an entry support player in the sense, like, you see her so many times like going in below, somebody drones her in below. She uses her breaching charges to remove bandit charges from a wall from below. Like you're seeing that a lot with her. It's just crazy to see the evolution. And I really have enjoyed like reading through this and seeing the changes. Clearly, one of the big things they've struggled with is her weapon balance between the G36C and the R4C. Let me throw this at you guys. What if Ashe would have never had the R4C? What if Ashe from the get-go would have only had the G36C available to her? Would that have changed how Ashe was played over time? What would Ashe look like? Would her role have been different over time? That's kind of interesting to think about. And I don't know the answer to that, but let me know what you think. So this is the history of Ashe. That's every balance change according to Liquipedia that she's ever experienced. And yeah, let me know what you guys thought about this. Did you enjoy it? Do you want to see this with more operators in the future? I'll be looking for that feedback down there. If you enjoyed this, please make sure that you like and subscribe, and I'll have more coming your way here soon.